I want to now shift to Maha Yahya, who is the head of the Carnegie Middle East Center, joining us now from Beirut. Yeah, great to have you with us. Thank you so much for taking the time. From your perspective, what are you hearing right now? We're seeing some of the aftermath of this targeted strike by the IDF. We're hearing a little bit about the injuries and death toll right now as the news evolves.
Hi, thank you for having me. What we're hearing is that there are quite a few children among those injured and killed. The images that are coming out are quite shocking. It's again, I mean, it's half a residential building that seems to have been taken out, and there's significant damage in the neighborhood. We've heard about who is targeted, but apparently it's not just Brahim Aqil, but that there was some meeting for military between Palestinian and Hezbollah, Palestinian factions and Hezbollah leadership. So we're not sure who else was in that room with Brahim Aqil, if indeed he was there and if indeed he has been killed.
Yeah, we're still waiting to get more information on that. But what we do know is just the chaos and the panic on the ground and the aftermath of this. This comes after days of just incredible, tensions rising, frankly, from what we saw on Tuesday, last night being one of the heaviest days of strikes towards Lebanon and, of course, Hezbollah responding as well. Give me a sense of what this could ultimately mean in terms of being on the precipice of a full-out war.
The Lebanese are reeling. I mean, we haven't even processed the pager attack. Thousands of pagers exploding in people's faces a few days ago, plus everything you've described since then. So there's a sense of shock, there's a sense of inability to process, and there's a lot of concern that Hezbollah is really being pushed to a point, even though they may be disoriented because of the disruption in their communication, internal communication, they still obviously still retain the capacity to respond. And there's increasing concern that they're really being pushed into a position where they have no option but to respond in some way or the other. That response, should it be living up to the initial equation of you hit Beirut, we hit Tel Aviv, if they do something like this will then immediately flare into a much bigger conflict than we've seen so far, and it will wreak death and destruction, certainly on Lebanon, but also on Israel. The Israeli government is gambling now, and they see it as an opportunity to continue pushing the envelope and pushing Hezbollah to see how far they can go. They've certainly caused a lot of damage over the past year, but I think particularly over the last 3 or 4 days.
So what's your take? I mean, this is really important to kind of understand, as Israel is saying that, heading into a new era of war. We know Hezbollah has ultimately basically said that it doesn't want to get dragged into a war. We've seen the skirmishes between, Israel as well as Hezbollah on the southern border of Lebanon. Does it seem to you that Israel wants to get into a full-out war? As Ben Wiedemann said, this isn't just a Lebanese issue. This is a geopolitical angle that's playing out, that Israel looks like it's challenging Iran directly.
It is challenging Iran directly. I think Israel is counting on the fact that for the past year, neither Iran nor Hezbollah have wanted to get into an all-out conflict. From Iran's perspective, it has no need to get into an all-out conflict and have assets it's spent the last 4 decades building up completely destroyed, and a conflict it really cannot win in. But if we're getting to the point where what we're seeing now is a war of attrition, where Hezbollah's capacities are being systematically degraded, its top leadership is being taken out, it's lost upwards of 450 members between commanders and foot soldiers, along with increasing pressure within Lebanon because of the displacement, the exhaustion, etc., then the equation might flip. And we don't know what that flip will be. It may not necessarily mean that Iran will immediately get involved in the conflict, However, also, I mean, there's been a lot of talk about the possibility of a ground invasion by Israel. What Israel has shown over the past few days, it actually does not need to do a ground invasion. And that, it can continue with this war of attrition. If we're going to look at the conflict from a 20th century perspective, it's two armies hitting each other. It's place specific. In this context, what we're looking at is, yes, there are bombings going back and forth, but we're not looking at kind of the kind of combat that we've seen in Gaza, for example. We're looking at a very sophisticated,
Yeah.
multi-hybrid kind of warfare, the kinds of which we have not seen before, at least in this particular context.
Well, Maya, thank you so much for your insights, joining us there from Beirut as we continue to cover this breaking news story after an IDF, what they call targeted strike in southern Beirut. We'll be bringing you an update on the story as it plays out. We're going to a short break. Stay with CNN.